Governors seem to be fizzling out of the 2020 presidential race, so what is that all about? The president did a 180 on issues of gun control and also tax credits, and the Democratic primary is taking shape. Looks like a top four has emerged. Others seem to be stuck.
Here to dig into all of this with the debrief is the Hill's Editor-in-Chief, Bob Cusack. Bob, welcome.
Great to see you, sir.
Happy Friday.
So let's start talking about the Dem primary. I actually made the case earlier in the week that I think we are really narrowing down to three.
Yeah.
Bernie, Biden, and Warren. I think this sort of white liberal vote has coalesced around Warren. But there's also a case to be made that Harris is in a fourth potential position there.
But I agree with you that she's in danger of falling out of that top four. I mean, she had a very good first debate. She had a very bad second debate. She doesn't generate news. I think, she embraced Medicare for All at first and now backtracked. So there's a wishy-washiness that also has hurt Beto O'Rourke. And you can't be wishy-washy as a candidate. And she basically has kind of moved away from single payer. So really, you never know. Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter came out of nowhere. And that's what Cory Booker's been saying. Like, wait a minute, that no one's voted yet. But that top three, maybe Harris has a comeback. So you can argue it's four, but it's hard to see someone else being the nominee at this point.
Yeah. Well, she seems to be everybody's kind of second choice, kind of hanging out. People are giving her a second look, but not really committing yet.
Right.
There's not really anybody else like that polls as high. Like there was a CNN poll out this week that was saying that she had something like 20% of people were interested in learning more about her, which is pretty high. It was her and Warren and a couple others. So there is a chance that she comes back with a second look and people really like what they see.
Yeah, and despite Joe Biden's gaffes and issues, some saying he's too old to run, and certainly he had a shaky first debate, decent second debate. He's looking pretty good right now, and I think that shows that there are a lot of moderate Democrats who just are not picking the other candidates, at least not yet, and they think that Biden is the best shot to beat Trump. But at the same time, you look at other polls, and you're seeing Trump's numbers dip, and you're seeing other candidates who can say, I can beat Trump too.
Right.
But Biden has like that, across all polls, the biggest lead against Trump.
Yeah, that's what his support really rests on, is this idea of electability.
Yes.
Right. So as long as he continues to hold this mantle, this idea that he's the most electable, I don't think people are going to move off of him.
But the issue for him, he's got a couple issues, is enthusiasm. Was there a lot of enthusiasm around Mitt Romney? Was there a lot of enthusiasm around John Kerry? Okay. Enthusiasm, Warren seems to have it. Sanders certainly has it.
Yeah.
Biden, not as much. It's like, yeah, I like Joe, but are you fired up about Joe? That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
And that I think could hurt him in the long run.
Well, and that was, in 2016, I was talking about this earlier actually. In 2016, we kept being told by the Clinton people, the crowd sizes don't matter.
Yes.
It's not indicative. The enthusiasm just matters the sheer number, so that you're seeing all the yard signs, that everybody's showing up at the rallies. Just disregard that. In the end, obviously, it did matter.
And it was a ridiculous argument, too, when you went back to Trump's crowd size, and some in the media were saying, well, are these people going to show up? Well, wait a minute. They waited 4 hours in the cold to see Donald Trump. They're going to spend 10 minutes
voting. Of course they're going to show up to vote.
And of course that proved to be true.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting right now, too, because while, obviously Trump doesn't have a primary to go, but his enthusiasm has only grown. I think the crowds and his support among the Republican base has only grown so much that he is in a much stronger position as far as enthusiasm goes coming into this election than he did in 2016.
Well, there was a lot, I agree with you, Lauren. There was a lot of skepticism within the Republican Party about Donald Trump. He has tightened his grip, and that's why anyone who runs against him in the primary is going to get thumped. But is he going to lose some of those independent voters that voted for him over Hillary Clinton, who was not the best candidate? That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
And certainly Trump is not doing anything to really try to get to 50%. He's just, everything is really about his base. He clearly thinks, if I have my base, which is larger now, I can win again.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, his campaign was barely even a campaign last time around.
Right.
It was held together with, glue and shoestring or whatever. This time he's got a real organization, not to mention the power of the federal government, the bully pulpit, all of those things.
And a lot of money, from small donors.
A lot of money. What about completely taken over the RNC?
Yes.
What about Mayor Pete?
You know, he's just kind of stuck. I mean, you have to get the African-American vote to win the nomination on the Democratic side. I just don't see how he gets there. Warren is also struggling in that category.
Yeah.
Biden is doing very well, and that's why he's leading. But Buttigieg has just struggled, I think, to catch fire. He's got money. He's going to be in the race for a long time. He's well-spoken. He hasn't really stood out at the debates. I think the next debate in September, he's going to have to do a lot better than he did in the first couple. Even though he wasn't bad, he didn't stand out.
And Booker is interesting because his performance was rated well in
Yes.
both debates, and yet didn't seem to amount to anything.
No, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more of a bump from it, because he clearly did well, especially in the last one. But I also think he's hurt by, he hasn't done a lot in Congress. Now, it's hard to get anything done in Congress because Congress is gridlocked and has been for years. But Warren is very good, again, at creating news. She's in the news a lot. Booker and Harris, they're just less so.
That's interesting. What about you? We've got the president flip-flopping on guns, also like floating a tax credit. What's going on there?
Well, he changes his mind a lot, as you guys know, but this has been dramatic. I mean, he's done 180s over a amount of 24 hours about whether they're going to go for another tax cut. Larry Kudlow is a White House advisor saying they are going to craft some type of tax cut package. Maybe they'll release it next year. But Trump is worried about the economy. He doesn't want to say we need a stimulus because he wants to say the economy is strong. I think it is smart politically for them to craft another tax cut package. It's not going to go anywhere, but they can use it on the campaign trail. I think it also would be wise if it was more geared toward the middle class. And that I think would help them, because they know, the White House knows, legislating is basically over until 2021.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about President Trump hasn't had a ton of legislative successes anyways, especially in a divided Congress. So, even then. So as far as the gun control debate then in his 180s there, I mean, where do you see the Trump administration actually making some concessions there, or do you think that's over?
I don't think it's over, because it's going to be a hot issue when they come back into session. I think it's an issue for the Republican Party that Trump and the Republican Party have to be on the same page. What are you doing on guns? Are you going to do red flag legislation? Lindsey Graham has indicated he wants to do that. NRA, not crazy about the red flag bill, which has been in effect in some states. So now Democrats say that's not, you need to do more. So I don't think much is going to get done, but with Trump going back and forth on guns and taxes, now it doesn't matter for lawmakers because they're not in town. But when they get back in town, I think they have to have a consistent message, because the party that's divided is usually losing.
Yeah, well, and I mean, basically what happened is Trump was in one place, he gets a call from the NRA, and then next thing you know, he's changed his mind.
Yes. Well, he was challenged on that. He was like, well, you're just using NRA talking points. And he fired back, those are Trump talking points.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Bob, stick with us. We got more we want to get to with Bob Cusack just after this.